am in the great city of Holbrook, Arizona, and I have to pose a question. Have you slept in a wigwam lately? Now, I have not, but I am about to tonight. You see, this is the world famous Wigwam Motel No. 6 here in Holbrook, right along Old Route 66. This is as iconic and vintage as it gets, and I am so excited to stay in a freaking wigwam tonight. This place is gonna be cool. The Wigwam Motel here is truly one of the most iconic sites of Route 66, and it appears that tonight I'm pretty much gonna have it to myself. Alongside the center lobby structure, there are 15 concrete teepees, they're actually not wigwams, that Route 66 travelers have slept in for the past 70 years. There was actually a chain of these locations, known as the Wigwam Village Motels. They were started by a man named Frank Redford, who built his first prototype in Horse Cave, Kentucky in 1933. Then he opened Wigwam Village No. 2 in Cave City, Kentucky. That one is still standing and I hope to stay there sometime soon. 3 more Wigwam Motels were built in New Orleans, Louisiana, Orlando, Florida, and Bessemer, Alabama, but tragically all 3 of those are long gone. During the late 1930s, a local motel owner named Chester Lewis visited the Cave City Wigwam Village. He was so impressed that he purchased the rights to Redford's design and the Wigwam Village name. Another condition of the agreement was formed so that coin-operated radios were installed in the wigwams here, and every dime inserted for 30 minutes of radio would be sent to Redford back in Kentucky. And so, in 1950, Chester Lewis opened Wigwam Village No. 6 here along Route 66 in Holbrook, Arizona. Alright, this is my teepee, number 7. So excited for this. Alright, this is my wigwam. This room is so vintage and awesome. Just look at those stucco walls, straight out of the 50s. Most of these are the authentic hickory furnishings, like the beds and chairs. They do look very old and have Navajo weaving bed sheets. Of course, there's also a loud air conditioner. Don't really need that in winter though. Let's take a look at the pictures. This one depicts 2 Navajo women collecting water at a very scenic river, and that looks like it may be a Coma Pueblo or some other hilltop Pueblo. Also, since this is a teepee, there is significant curvature in the walls, especially here in the bathroom. I have to duck my head in some spots. This is a very unique shower shape. This is very cool. Turns out there are trains that pass directly behind the wigwams. You can definitely hear the freight trains when they pass by, even when you're in the wigwam. Now let's take a look around the property. This motel certainly feels like a trip back to the 1950s and the Mother Road's heyday. In front of each wigwam, there is at least one vintage car parked out front to recreate the feel of the 50s. While guests do park their cars next to the antique cars, There only appears to be 2 other wigwams occupied tonight, so most of them are clear shots. These wigwams are super cool and unique. They sure don't make them like this anymore. I like the painted pattern around the diamond-shaped window. Holbrook was a popular place to stop on Route 66 to visit the nearby Petrified Forest National Park, and the adjoining roadside petrified wood themed attractions and shops around town. So there are lots of very large petrified stumps littered around the Wigwam Village. That's a one-of-a-kind touch. These wigwams are each 28 feet tall, which is quite impressive. The bright green neon sign for the Wigwam Motel has illuminated along Route 66. Reminds me a lot of the Blue Swallow Motel along the same road. Clearly there is vacancy tonight, and there's only 15 wigwams. I imagine it's harder to get one during summer. The motel office does have some vintage cars parked out front. You can't drive your own car under the awning here. Now let's head in and check the lobby out. The restored lobby of the Wigwam Motel is beautiful and packed with antiques. There's an intricately carved fireplace for some reason, along with some rifles and lots of Navajo crafts from the nearby Navajo Nation. There's also a model airplane hanging from the ceiling, along with some petrified wood pieces for sale. That is a cool photo of a rainbow over the Wigwam Village. There's lots of weavings and photographs lining the walls. They actually have an antique national cash register at the desk. And look at this interesting door. Not sure where it's from, but it appears to have a conquistador and perhaps an Aztec. They actually have a museum in the back room, so let's check that out. Wow, look at this old school display of assorted petrified wood and antiques. This was the collection of the original owner Chester Lewis, and it's still here on display in his motel. Here's a photograph of an Indian trading post, with a painted teepee and some advertising mentioning Sitting Bull. Not sure if this was the Meteor City trading post or where this was taken. If you know, leave a comment. And of course, there's lots of petrified wood. The landscape surrounding this town was scattered with these stumps left over from what used to be a subtropical rainforest. Antique tools and machinery are also added into the mix. This antique case is filled with Native American artifacts. There's no labeling or anything in here, so I assume these are relics of pottery from local pueblos. There are some arrowheads. And some jewelry, much of it made out of animal bones. There's an old piano and a spinning wheel among the petrified wood. There's also some cowboy hats atop the piano. There's a big old suitcase, like the ones Route 66 travelers may have taken. It's so big it's got a chest of drawers. And there's an article about getting some kitsch on Route 66 here at the Wigwam Motel. There's a scrap metal roadrunner, and more petrified wood. Here are some photographs of the scenery around Holbrook. This tire says I've seen many bumps in the road, so I figured Holbrook was a good place to get retired. There's an original auto trail sign for the National Old Trails Road, which shows Holbrook 67 miles away. The National Old Trails Road was one of the oldest auto roads in the country and went from New York City to Los Angeles and San Francisco. It passed right through Holbrook before Route 66. Here's a case full of petrified wood and other minerals. And there is also some local turquoise jewelry, which is a popular craft around here. There's a doll or a Navajo weaver. And this case has some old rifles and swords. Not sure if these are from the Civil War era or the Indian Wars era, but they look to be from around that time. There are some pretty large shells from the Great War, and those are some cartridge boxes from the Civil War era. And there are some various tools in this case. Here's a classic illustration of the Andersonville prisoner of war camp in Georgia. This rendering was very popular after the war. This is a Regina music box with a punched metal disc inside that would play music. Sadly, it doesn't work here. There's a drum, even more petrified wood, and a cool painting of the painted desert. So this museum was a pretty cool bonus. I was not expecting this. Now that it's dark, the neon really lights up the place. Here's the view of the Wigwam Village No. 6 from across the Mother Road, as it has stood for decades. There were 7 Wigwam villages overall. As I mentioned, number 2 in Cave City is still there, but I should also note that the 7th was farther down Route 66 in Rialto, California, which is technically San Bernardino. Wigwam Village No. 7 was built under Frank Redford, and that one is still there and open. This Wigwam Motel, along with the one in Rialto, were the inspiration for the Cozy Cone Motel in Radiator Springs in the Disney Pixar Cars movie. Well, it's time to sleep in a wigwam at long last. Good night, Wigwam Motel. It's a good morning here at the Wigwam Motel in Holbrook, Arizona. I had a very comfortable night, and I've gotten up to watch the sunrise over Wigwam Village. The loud freight trains do not cease day or night. there's a bunny. Behind this wigwam, I noticed there's a little green dinosaur hiding behind a bush. This guy looks like he's been here a while, and every roadside attraction here in Holbrook has dinosaurs, so he's in good company. On this end of the motel, they have blown up the letter of confirmation on a billboard when the Wigwam Village No. 6 was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. There's also a billboard along Route 66 advertising to sleep in a wigwam. That's great. I cannot get over how cool these Wigwam Motel room structures are. Well, now I'm gonna head off for the day's adventures, but I have booked a second night. Alright, I have made it back to the Wigwam Motel for the evening. Behind the wigwams, there is a regular motel structure. I think they do operate that for more room, and this building has some interesting tile work. Guess this is the proprietor's home. This evening, I figured I'd take a closer look at every antique auto they have outside the wigwams, which completes the retro look of this place. This wigwam has a gargantuan chunk of petrified wood next to it. This tow truck is unique because it is labeled as Tow Mater's Grandpappy. It does look like Tow Mater, and it may very well be his grandpappy. There was a real tow truck that inspired the character Mater on Route 66, and that supposed tow truck is in Galena, Kansas. It's actually an impressive collection of classic cars, and a lot of them are in good shape despite being out here in the desert.
Very soon we'll roll along down the trail and sing our song.
When Interstate 40 bypassed Holbrook in the 60s, the Wigwam Motel, along with so many other Route 66 motels and businesses, fell on hard times. When Chester Lewis retired in 1980, no one took over the motel for him, so the motel closed and stayed closed for nearly 7 years, falling into some disrepair during that time. His son and other family members were saddened by what had happened to this magical place, and ended up getting a hold of it and reopening it in 1987. It has been open ever since.
And we'll ride for a change on a bucking cayuse on the open range.
Directly behind the office, there's a bunch of petrified wood and some more rusty cars and trucks.
Whoa-ho, giddy up, get going the hill.
Some of these petrified wood chunks seem to be close to the size of the world's largest petrified stump at Geronimo's trading post near Holbrook, which I did visit in a separate video. There's also a fire pit that operates sometimes. Bet that's nice.
Ranch back home.
The inside of this car is definitely messed up. Some of these cars do have their hood ornaments.
Come on, get a move on.
And we'll ride for a change on a bucking cayuse on the open range.
This is actually a custom VW bug with an added on camper RV. It's pretty small, but that's an interesting build. Looks like pretty tight quarters, but it may work well.
But life is new, so hurry down the trail that's calling you to my tumble-down ranch back home.
There are also 2 utility wigwams next to the office, and there's a beautiful car parked there. The office actually used to serve as a gas station as well. There were some gas pumps out front, but they were removed long ago. This Studebaker actually belonged to Chester Lewis, the original owner. It's still sitting out in front of the office. This place really is something else. This is one of the most fun places I've ever stayed. And once again, there's only 3 wigwams occupied tonight. I have also figured out that the Wigwam Motel is haunted. That's right, I'm staying a second night in a haunted wigwam. So last night, it was shaking. The wigwam was shaking, alright? I'm not crazy. It was like 2-3 a.m., but it was freaking shaking. And the trains don't pass too far from here. I've shown them several times. And you can hear when they pass, but nothing shakes. I could not hear a train, but it was freaking shaking. And so today I went to the Navajo County Historical Society here in Holbrook. I have a video on that. It's a very good museum, and I recommend you check it out. And when I told the lady there that I was staying at the wigwam, first thing she asked, did you have any ghost experiences? And that lots of people have paranormal encounters while staying here. So I was not expecting that. See if anything happens tonight. But yeah, haunted wigwam. Well, night has fallen upon the Wigwam Village once again. I'm gonna take one more walk around the property at this icon of Americana. This morning I had a train to wake me up just before sunrise, and no paranormal activity to report last night. It's just that first night was really weird. So that was my experience staying at the world famous Wigwam Village Motel No. 6. And that was a dream come true. This place is truly as iconic as it gets. One of the best hotel stays I've ever had, and I will certainly be returning to sleep in the wigwams next time I spend the night in Holbrook. It was clean and decently priced, at least in off-season January, so I would highly recommend staying here. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. I have videos on the other unique attractions here in the wonderful town of Holbrook. Some will be linked in the description. I have also filmed at roadside attractions and all sorts of fun and interesting stuff on Route 66 and all across the country. So make sure to check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.